The unexpected discovery. The year was 2332, and humanity's journey into the unknown stretches of space had only just begun. With advanced ships capable of traveling far beyond Earth's atmosphere, humanity was eager to explore new worlds. But what happened next was something no one could have predicted. It all began when the flagship, the Horizon, along with its fleet, received a strange transmission from deep space. Commander Alex Walker sat in the control room of the Horizon, staring at the screens in front of him. He wasn't sure whether to be excited or nervous. It wasn't unusual to pick up signals in space, but this was different. The signal was unlike anything the team had ever encountered before. It was a constant stream of energy patterns, almost as if someone was trying to reach out to them. "Captain, you might want to take a look at this," Lieutenant Sarah Moore said, pointing to the flashing display on the navigation screen. Alex leaned over. The signal was unlike any known human-made frequency. It was a perfect mix of sounds, like an organized transmission, but there was no source they could identify. The ship's sensors failed to locate anything around them. Just a few moments ago, the space around them had been clear and empty. The vast, dark silence of space surrounded them. "Is it a human signal?" Alex asked. "No, sir," Sarah replied, shaking her head. "I've cross-checked it with every database we have. It's not from Earth, and it doesn't match any alien race we've studied. It's something new." For a moment, the crew was silent. A sense of unease washed over the room. Everyone knew the risks of exploring unknown parts of space, but no one expected to encounter something truly alien, something that might be far more advanced than humanity. "Can we trace its origin?" Alex asked, trying to maintain a calm voice. Lieutenant Moore tapped away at the console. "It's difficult. The signal is coming from a region of space we've never mapped before, too far out to be in our charts." "Then let's go find out," Alex said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to check it out." As the fleet turned toward the source of the signal, the crew couldn't help but wonder what they were about to discover. The unknown stretched out before them, like an invitation to a mystery. Was it a message from another civilization? Or perhaps some form of natural phenomenon they hadn't yet understood? Whatever it was a challenge, and challenges were what humanity thrived on. The fleet slowly maneuvered into the coordinates of the signal, passing through a dense asteroid field. It took hours to navigate through the rocks and debris, but finally, as they reached the source, the crew was met with an awe-inspiring sight. Before them, floating in the emptiness of space, was a massive, perfectly spherical object. It was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. A structure so vast it seemed to swallow the surrounding stars. It looked like a moon, yet it wasn't. The object was completely smooth, with no surface details at all. It seemed to absorb light, casting a dark shadow across the emptiness around it. "Captain, this is incredible," Sarah said, her voice filled with awe. "I've never seen anything like this." "What is it?" Alex stood still, staring at the massive object. It was clear this wasn't just a piece of space debris or a natural formation. This was something built, something deliberate. Whoever or whatever created this, it was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. "Are we sure this is a natural formation?" Alex asked, his mind racing. The team had seen their share of strange objects, but this was different. This was engineered. There was no question about it. "No, sir," Sarah replied, still in disbelief. "There's nothing like this in any of our records. This could be a construction of some kind. And the signal we're receiving, it's coming from within." "Prepare to make contact," Alex said, his voice steady despite the unease growing inside him. "We don't know what we're dealing with, but we need answers. Send a communication probe inside the structure. Let's see if we can understand what this is." The crew got to work, preparing the ship's advanced probe for deployment. As the probe was launched, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The crew was both excited and nervous. What if they weren't alone? What if this was a trap? No one knew what to expect. The idea of encountering an advanced civilization, or something far beyond their understanding, made everyone in the room tense. The probe descended toward the surface of the mysterious object, sending back strange images, lines and shapes that seemed to shift and warp as though the object itself was alive. The technology within was like nothing humans had ever built. It was smooth, seamless, and pulsated with energy. The probe transmitted data back, but it was unlike anything they had expected. This was not a message. This was a warning. "Commander, the readings are off the charts," Sarah said, her voice shaking slightly. "This, whatever it is, it's far more advanced than anything we've ever encountered." Alex felt his heart race. The discovery wasn't just exciting, it was terrifying. If this was an alien race, what kind of civilization could they be? Why hadn't humanity known about them before? And why now? Why had they reached out? "We need to be careful," Alex said, his voice calm but filled with urgency. "We don't know what we're walking into. Everyone stay alert. We're on the verge of something big, and we need to be prepared for anything." As the fleet hovered around the massive structure, the crew couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. Would they find a new ally? Or would this discovery lead to something far more dangerous? The tension was unbearable as the crew held their breath, waiting for the next move. The day their ships found an advanced race had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. First contact. The crew of the Horizon couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that settled in their stomachs as they circled the massive, spherical object. The dark surface of the structure seemed to watch them, as though it held ancient secrets that would either save or destroy them. The probe had sent back strange readings, but it was clear they weren't about to get answers just by observing from a distance. "Commander, I suggest we send a landing party," Lieutenant Moore said, breaking the silence. "We can't get a complete picture from here. We need to see this up close." Alex hesitated. The idea of sending humans onto the surface of an unknown alien structure made him nervous, but the thrill of discovery was stronger. This was history. This could be the key to unlocking knowledge beyond human comprehension. But with it came the responsibility and risk of stepping into the unknown. "Prepare the landing team," Alex said, his voice steady. "We're going in." The team gathered in the docking bay, suited up in their protective gear. The air was thick with anticipation as everyone silently checked their equipment. The fear of the unknown loomed over them, but the excitement of first contact with an advanced race drowned out most of their concerns. As the shuttle launched from the Horizon and approached the surface, the enormous structure seemed to pulse with an energy that almost felt alive. It was as if the object itself was aware of their presence. The shuttle touched down on the smooth surface, and the team disembarked, their boots making no sound as they stepped onto the darkened terrain. At first, there was nothing. No signs of life, no movement, just silence. The landscape stretched out before them, a vast plain of polished black metal. The only thing that stood out were lines of glowing symbols etched into the surface, faint and almost imperceptible. "Look at these symbols," said Lieutenant Moore, pointing at the markings. "They look like some form of writing. We need to study these." Before anyone could respond, a low hum vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. The air around them seemed to shift, and the symbols began to glow brighter, illuminating the area with a strange, eerie light. Suddenly, a section of the surface opened before them with a smooth mechanical motion, like a door that had been hidden from sight. A soft blue light emanated from within, inviting them inside. "Is this some sort of entrance?" asked Sergeant Grant, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Are they waiting for us?" Before anyone could answer, a figure emerged from the glowing doorway. It wasn't human, but it wasn't entirely alien either. The being stood tall, with skin that shimmered like liquid metal. Its face was smooth, almost featureless, but its eyes glowed with an intense golden light that seemed to pierce into their very souls. The crew froze, unsure of what to do. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, the moment of first contact. The being spoke, though its voice was not heard by the ears. It echoed directly into their minds. The voice was deep and resonant, yet there was an unsettling calmness to it. "We have been waiting for you," it said, its words heavy with meaning. "The time has come for your species to learn what lies beyond the stars." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The voice wasn't just speaking, it was reaching deep into his thoughts, bypassing the usual barriers of language. It was as though the being knew everything about them, even without speaking a single word. The team exchanged nervous glances. They had prepared for the possibility of encountering an alien race, but nothing could have prepared them for this. An intelligence so advanced, it could communicate directly with their minds. "Who are you?" Alex managed to ask, his voice trembling despite his best efforts to remain calm. "We are the Talaris," the being answered. "We are the keepers of knowledge, the witnesses to the rise and fall of countless civilizations. We have watched your species for millennia, and now we offer you the chance to join us in the next phase of your evolution." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and danger. The crew was stunned. The Talaris had been observing humanity for centuries. How was this possible? What did they mean by the next phase of evolution? One of the crew members, Sergeant Grant, took a cautious step forward. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his voice steady but uncertain. "Why contact us now?" The Talaris' glowing eyes seemed to fix on Grant. "We do not want anything," it replied. "But the time has come for your species to make a choice. You can continue on your current path, blind to the truth of the universe, or you can join us and unlock the knowledge that will change everything." The silence that followed was deafening. The offer was clear. With the knowledge of the Talaris, humanity could advance beyond its wildest dreams, unlocking technologies, understanding the universe, and perhaps even reaching the stars in ways they had never imagined. But the risk was just as great. To accept this knowledge might also mean to lose something essential: humanity's very identity. The team stood in shock, the weight of the moment sinking in. Would they accept this gift, or would they turn away, fearful of the unknown consequences? Alex turned to his crew, his mind racing. He felt the eyes of the Talaris on him, as though they were waiting for a decision. He knew the consequences of this moment could shape the future of humanity, but the right choice was unclear. "We need to think about this," Alex said, his voice filled with uncertainty. "This is too much to decide in a moment." The Talaris nodded slowly, as though it understood their hesitation. "You have time. But remember, the choice must be made soon. Time waits for no one." With that, the Talaris turned and stepped back into the glowing doorway, which closed silently behind it. The team was left standing in the eerie glow, unsure of what to do next. Alex stared at the doorway, his mind racing. They had just made contact with an alien race, an advanced civilization beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of. But now, they had to decide what to do with this knowledge. Would they accept the offer, or would they walk away from the greatest discovery in human history? The suspense was unbearable. Whatever they chose, it would change everything. And there was no going back. The alien revelation. The air was thick with uncertainty as the team stood in front of the glowing doorway where the Talaris had just vanished. Alex couldn't shake the weight of their words. "The time has come for your species to learn what lies beyond the stars." Those words echoed in his mind. What did it truly mean? Were they offering humanity a gift, or were they setting a trap? The crew had returned to the horizon after the encounter, each of them still processing what had just happened. The information from the Talaris was overwhelming, and yet there was something alluring about it. Their words, their offer of knowledge. It sounded too good to be true, and that made Alex uneasy. He sat in the command chair, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest as he stared at the stars through the massive windows. The fleet remained in position around the alien structure, but something in the depths of space felt different now. The future seemed more uncertain than ever. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Moore said, breaking his thoughts. Alex stood up quickly and moved toward the control console. "What have you found?" "Those symbols we saw on the surface," Sarah replied, tapping a few keys. "They're not just a form of writing. I've been running them through every database we have, and I think I've cracked part of it." Alex leaned in closer. The symbols, previously just glowing lines etched into the dark surface of the alien structure, now seemed to have a deeper meaning. As Sarah worked, the translation began to reveal itself on the screen. The language, though complex, seemed to follow patterns. The more they decoded, the clearer the message became. "They're trying to communicate with us in a way we can understand," Sarah said, her voice tinged with awe. "They've given us a map, a path to follow, but the implications are overwhelming." Alex studied the screen. The decoded message was cryptic yet clear. "Join us in the great expansion. Reach beyond the stars and understand what you have never known. The key lies in the knowledge we offer." Suddenly, it all made sense. The Talaris weren't just offering knowledge. They were offering a chance for humanity to ascend to a higher level of understanding. They were inviting humanity to join an ancient civilization, to be part of something far greater than Earth had ever known. But there was something more in the transmission, a hidden layer that made Alex's heart race. "I'm seeing something here," Sarah said, pointing to a new part of the message. "It's a warning. It says, knowledge is not without cost. You must be prepared for the trials that come with this gift." Alex's mind spun as he considered the consequences. Was humanity ready for such an immense change? Could they handle the responsibility of the power the Talaris were offering? The warning made it clear that the knowledge they were about to receive wouldn't be without a price. The thought of what that cost could be haunted him. What if humanity wasn't ready? What if the knowledge would corrupt them, lead them down a path from which they couldn't return? "We can't make this decision lightly," Alex said, trying to steady his nerves. "We need to think carefully about what this means for us. This is beyond anything we've ever imagined." Lieutenant Moore nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We have to prepare ourselves for the unknown. If we accept this knowledge, there's no turning back." The crew was on edge as they debated what to do. Some were eager to accept the offer, to seize the opportunity for humanity to advance. They saw it as a chance to leap ahead of other civilizations, to finally unlock the secrets of the universe. But others, like Sergeant Grant, were more cautious, sensing that this could be a dangerous path. "Whatever decision we make, we need to be united," Alex said, finally standing. "This is not just about us as a crew. This is about the future of humanity. If we accept the Talaris offer, we could change everything. Technology, society, our very place in the universe. But if we fail, if we misuse that power, we could destroy ourselves." The tension in the room was palpable. No one spoke for a long time, each person reflecting on the consequences of their decision. Would humanity be able to handle the power and knowledge the Talaris were offering? Or would the price be too high? Hours passed, but the decision remained unclear. The crew knew they had to make a choice, but the weight of that choice felt unbearable. They had no way of knowing what accepting the Talaris offer would mean. The only thing they knew for certain was that their lives, and the future of Earth, would never be the same again. As they sat in the control room, Alex couldn't help but feel that something was missing. There was a part of the message, a piece they hadn't decoded yet. Maybe it was hidden, buried deep within the symbols or encoded in the layers of information. If there was something they had missed, something the Talaris hadn't told them, they needed to find it. And just as the crew began to feel the pressure of time pushing them to make a decision, the answer came from an unexpected source. On the far side of the ship, a communications officer, Private Daniels, looked up from his console, his face pale. "Sir, we've received a new transmission. It's from the Talaris." The entire room went quiet. "What does it say?" Alex asked, feeling a knot form in his stomach. The officer hesitated, then spoke. It's a warning. A deeper warning than before. They say we are not the first civilization they've offered their knowledge to. There's a history of those who have accepted, and not all of them have survived the trials. The weight of the revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. The Talaris weren't just offering knowledge. They were testing humanity. The trials were not a simple task. They were challenges that could destroy entire civilizations. The crew stared at the screen in shock. The true cost of this gift was far greater than they could have ever imagined. Now, more than ever, they needed to decide whether to risk everything to accept the Talaris knowledge, or to walk away, fearing the unknown consequences that lay ahead. A glimpse into the future. The crew was in turmoil. The choice they faced now felt like an impossible one. The warning from the Talaris had made it clear that this knowledge came with dire consequences. The idea of being tested, of undergoing trials that could lead to the destruction of their civilization, loomed over them. Yet the Talaris had also shown them something undeniable, the potential for humanity to evolve, to rise above the limitations they had struggled with for centuries. As Alex sat in his quarters that night, his mind was consumed by the possibilities. The message from the Talaris had hinted at incredible advances, technologies, insights, and understanding that could push humanity into an entirely new era. The chance to explore the deepest secrets of the universe was tantalizing. But at what cost? His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden ping from the ship's communication system. It was Lieutenant Moore. "Captain, you need to see this." Sarah's voice came through the comm. "We've unlocked more of the Talaris data. It's a projection. They've shown us what our future could be." Alex's heart raced. A projection. Of what? "Their vision of our future," Sarah replied, her voice both awestruck and cautious. "They've sent us a simulated vision of what humanity could become with their knowledge." Alex felt a chill run through him. He quickly made his way to the command center where the rest of the crew had gathered. The tension was palpable as everyone stared at the massive screen that now displayed a breathtaking scene. It was a vision of Earth, but not as they knew it. The planet was gleaming, its cities shining with advanced technology. The air was clean, the oceans had been restored, and the once ravaged landscapes were thriving with new life. "Is this possible?" Lieutenant Moore asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "This is Earth, but it's perfect. No wars, no disease. Humanity has solved every problem we've ever faced." The crew stared at the image, mesmerized by the vision of what could be. The possibilities seemed endless. Technology beyond their wildest dreams, the end of poverty and conflict. A golden age for humanity. But then, as if to shatter the beauty of the vision, the image began to shift. The perfect world began to crack, fractures appearing across the once pristine cities. The once beautiful oceans began to darken, and the sky was filled with ominous storms. The thriving life began to wither, and the vision became a nightmare. "Wait," Alex muttered, his voice tense. "What's happening? This isn't part of the future we saw." "The projection is showing two paths," Sarah explained. "The one you saw first, that's the potential. The ideal future that humanity could reach with the Talaris' help. But the second, this is what happens if we misuse the knowledge. The darkness creeping in, the destruction, that's the cost." The vision shifted again. Now, it showed a world not unlike the one Alex had seen before, but now overrun by war. Cities burned, and armies clashed in the streets. The very earth seemed to be tearing itself apart. The air was toxic, and the planet's once thriving ecosystems were crumbling. Humanity was at war with itself, using the very technologies that had once promised a bright future to wage destruction. "That's the trial," Alex whispered. "The Talaris weren't just warning us about failure. They were showing us the consequences of unchecked power." As the vision faded, leaving only the cold emptiness of space behind, the crew sat in stunned silence. The stark contrast between the two futures was haunting. It was a choice between paradise and destruction, a path that could either lead humanity to an unprecedented future or pull them into ruin. "We can't let that happen," Sergeant Grant said, his voice steady but firm. "We can't let that destruction become our reality. We need to be sure. Are we ready for this? To carry the weight of this power?" The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The images from the projection were still fresh in their minds. The beautiful, peaceful future was so tempting, so perfect. But the other side of it, the catastrophic consequences, was equally clear. They weren't just choosing a future for themselves, but for all of humanity. "What if we're not ready?" Lieutenant Moore said quietly, almost to herself. "What if we can't control it?" Alex turned to face his crew, his heart heavy with the knowledge that their decision would forever change the course of human history. The weight of their responsibility pressed down on him. They had seen the potential for greatness, but they had also seen the dark side of that power. The Talaris had shown them both sides of the coin. They could unlock a future beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of, or they could bring about their own destruction. "We're not just deciding for ourselves," Alex said, his voice quiet but resolute. "We're deciding for every person on Earth, for the generations to come. We need to be sure. This is a decision we can't take lightly, but we can't be afraid to make it." Sergeant Grant nodded, his expression grim but determined. "No matter the path we choose, we'll face it together." The room fell silent as Alex and his crew absorbed the gravity of the decision before them. They had seen the possible futures, both the shining hope and the terrifying cost. And now, they had to decide which path to follow. Would they embrace the knowledge and technology of the Talaris, risking everything in the process? Or would they walk away, leaving the future uncertain, but at least under their own control? Alex took a deep breath, his decision made. It was clear what they had to do. "We don't have much time," Alex said. "We need to prepare. This is our future, and we have to take responsibility for it. We'll embrace the knowledge, but we'll make sure we control it. We will be the ones to shape our destiny, not the other way around." And with that, the decision was made. The crew, united in their resolve, began the preparations to accept the Talaris offer. But the trials ahead would test them all, and they would have to face the unknown with courage and wisdom. The dilemma. The decision was made, but the uncertainty lingered. The crew was united in their resolve to accept the Talaris offer, but the weight of the unknown trials ahead hung over them. The Talaris had warned them. The knowledge and power they would receive came with a price, and the trials they would face could determine whether humanity would thrive or fall into ruin. The fleet had been put on alert as the countdown to the next phase began. Alex walked the corridors of the horizon, his mind racing with the complexities of their decision. Each crew member had their own doubts, their own fears about what was to come. Could humanity truly wield the knowledge of an advanced civilization without succumbing to its darker impulses? As Alex entered the command center, he was met by Lieutenant Moore, who was busy reviewing the data from their previous encounters with the Talaris. Her face was tense, her eyes scanning the reports with growing concern. "Captain, we've got another transmission," Sarah said, turning to him. "It's from the Talaris." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had been expecting this. The Talaris had already shown them the path ahead, but now it seemed like they were pushing them further into unknown territory. "Play it," Alex ordered. The screen flickered, and a deep voice echoed through the command center. It was the Talaris again, their presence felt even in the cold silence of space. "The trials are near," the voice said. "You must understand this. What you seek to gain cannot be taken lightly. We have seen countless species before you, each tempted by the power we offer. Many have fallen, unable to bear the burden of knowledge. Will you be different? Only time will tell." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. The words were clear. The trials were imminent, and the Talaris were not giving any more warnings. They would face the consequences of their decision very soon. "This is it," Sarah said, her voice grim. "We're on the verge of something enormous. If we fail, everything we've worked for could be lost. The future of humanity is at stake." The tension in the room was thick. Each crew member was processing the weight of their responsibility. It wasn't just about the power they would gain. It was about the future of all life on Earth. Humanity's path forward could either be one of peace and progress, or it could descend into chaos. Alex took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He knew that once they entered the trials, there would be no turning back. The Talurus had made that clear. They would have to face whatever challenges lay ahead, whether they were ready or not. "We've made our choice," Alex said, his voice steady. "We're going forward with the knowledge, but we will be careful. We will control this power. We won't let it control us." He turned to the crew, meeting each of their eyes. "The trials are just the beginning. Once we pass them, we'll have the tools to rebuild, to restore Earth, to solve the problems that have plagued humanity for centuries. But we need to stay united. We need to stay strong." There was a moment of silence as the crew absorbed his words. They all knew the road ahead would be difficult. The trials would test their will, their morality, and their strength. The Talurus had hinted that failure was a real possibility, and the consequences of that failure could be catastrophic. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, cutting through the tension in the room. Red lights flashed, and the crew immediately sprang into action. "What's happening?" Alex demanded. "We're being pulled in," Lieutenant Moore shouted. "It's the Talurus. They're starting the trials." The entire ship shook as the gravitational pull from the alien structure intensified. The crew scrambled to their stations as the horizon was drawn toward the center of the massive object. Alex could feel the ship being tugged, the force of the pull growing stronger by the second. "Brace for impact," Alex ordered. "We don't know what we're walking into, but we have to be ready for anything." The crew strapped into their seats, each of them bracing for what was to come. As the ship was pulled deeper into the alien structure, the surroundings outside the windows began to change. The sleek surface of the object was replaced by vast, dark chambers, filled with strange symbols and glowing pathways that seemed to pulse with energy. "Where are we?" Sergeant Grant asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "What is this place?" "I don't know," Alex replied, his gaze fixed on the shifting walls of the structure. "But it's clear we've just entered the heart of the trials. This is where everything changes." Suddenly, the ship came to a halt, and the lights inside flickered. A cold silence filled the room, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. The Talurus voice echoed once more, but this time, it was colder, more distant. "Welcome to the first trial," the voice said, reverberating through the ship. "You are about to face what no other species has been able to overcome. Will you prove worthy, or will you succumb to the chaos that awaits? Your actions will determine the future of your kind." Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the glowing symbols on the walls. The first trial had begun, and humanity's fate rested in their hands. There was no turning back now. The unknown threat. The ship's interior trembled as the trials began. Alex gripped the armrests of his chair, trying to stay calm as the horizon slowly drifted deeper into the heart of the alien structure. The silence that followed the Talurus' chilling words was unbearable. The crew was tense, aware that their every decision and action now carried the weight of humanity's future. The walls around them pulsed with a soft, eerie light, casting long shadows across the command center. Strange symbols shifted and flickered, almost as if they were alive, changing in response to the ship's movement. No one knew what to expect, but the tension in the air made it clear that something was about to happen. They were not just visitors, they were intruders in a place designed for something far beyond their understanding. "Commander," Lieutenant Moore said, her voice steady but filled with concern, "the sensors are picking up something strange. The structure is shifting around us. I don't think we're alone." Alex stood quickly, his heart racing. "What do you mean, we're not alone?" "The readings, they don't match anything we've encountered before," Sarah said, her eyes scanning the data on the screen. "There are anomalies in the energy fields, fluctuations that suggest something is moving inside the structure. And there's something else, something nearby." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered, and the hum of the engine stuttered. The crew gasped as the entire vessel was jolted forward. The gravity felt as if it were being distorted, tugging them in different directions. "Brace yourselves," Alex shouted, his voice sharp. The ship lurched, and a loud crash reverberated through the halls. A sudden, blinding light erupted from the walls around them. For a moment, everything went white. Then, the ship was still. The crew remained frozen in their seats, hearts pounding, unsure of what had just happened. They looked around, trying to make sense of the eerie silence that followed. The ship was no longer moving, but there was a deep, unsettling feeling that something was watching them. "Commander," Sergeant Grant's voice was low, almost a whisper. "Look at the view screen." Alex turned to face the screen. The once sleek, polished walls of the alien structure had been replaced with an entirely different sight. The ship was now surrounded by what appeared to be dark, shadowy figures, entities that flickered in and out of existence, their forms shifting as if they were made of smoke or pure energy. They hovered just outside the ship, like an unseen presence, watching with malevolent eyes. The crew stared at the figures in shock. The beings didn't appear hostile, but there was a palpable sense of danger emanating from them. They moved in perfect unison, their forms slowly circling the horizon, as if studying it, studying them. "Are they alive?" Lieutenant Moore asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know," Alex replied, his mind racing. "But they're not reacting to us like any life forms we've encountered. They don't seem to be physical. It's like they exist in a different form entirely." Suddenly, one of the shadowy figures moved closer, its shape rippling with energy. It approached the ship's viewport and paused, its glowing eyes locked onto Alex. The entire crew felt its gaze, as if it was reaching directly into their minds. "Do not be afraid," the voice echoed within their minds. It was not the Tellurus, but something different, something ancient. The voice was calm, almost soothing, yet carried an undeniable sense of power. "We are the guardians of the trials. You are not here by chance. Your presence has been foretold." Alex's heart raced. "Guardians? What are you talking about? Who are you?" "We are the protectors of this place," the voice continued. "You seek the knowledge of the Tellurus, but it comes with great risk. The trials are designed to test more than your intelligence and strength. They test your hearts. We will be watching, and we will decide whether you are worthy of what you seek." The being's form shifted, and for a moment, Alex thought he saw something else. An image, like a vision. It showed humanity, but not the humanity he knew. It was an image of humans, struggling in chaos, consumed by greed and war, tearing their own world apart. Then, in the blink of an eye, the vision disappeared. "We were once like you," the voice said softly. "We were a species with great potential, but we failed. And in our failure, we learned that knowledge without wisdom brings only destruction. We failed the trials. You may, too." Alex swallowed hard. "Then why are you letting us go through this?" "You seek to learn what we could not. You seek to reach the stars, but first, you must prove that you will not repeat our mistakes. The trials will reveal whether you can control the power you wish to wield. The consequences of failure will be yours to bear." The being's form shifted again, its eyes burning into Alex. "You have been warned. Do not think lightly of what you are about to face." And just as suddenly as they had appeared, the shadowy figures withdrew, disappearing into the walls of the alien structure, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Alex slowly exhaled, his mind spinning with the revelation. The Guardians, their very presence, was a reminder of what could happen if humanity failed the trials. This wasn't just a test of their ability to learn or adapt. It was a test of their character. Would they be worthy of the knowledge the Talaris offered, or would they succumb to the same dark fate as those who had come before them? He turned to his crew, his voice heavy with the weight of their responsibility. We knew the trials would be difficult, but now we understand. This is more than just a test of our minds. This is a test of who we are, of whether humanity can truly rise above its own flaws. The Guardians have shown us what failure looks like. We cannot afford to make the same mistakes. The crew exchanged uneasy looks, but Alex could see the resolve in their eyes. They had come this far, and they couldn't back down now. They had a future to fight for, and the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. "This is just the beginning," Alex said, his voice steady but determined. "We'll face whatever comes next, together." As the ship drifted deeper into the unknown, the crew knew that the true test had only just begun. The trials would not be easy, but they were ready to prove that humanity was capable of greatness if they could survive the darkness ahead. The new beginning. The horizon drifted slowly through the vast, shifting corridors of the alien structure. The crew tightly focused on the trials ahead. After their chilling encounter with the Guardians, the tension was palpable. Each member of the crew knew that the trials were not merely about intelligence or strength. They had been warned. They would be tested on their very character. If they failed, they risked more than just losing the knowledge offered by the Talaris. They risked the future of humanity itself. For hours, they moved through the dark corridors, uncertain of what awaited them. The ship's systems fluctuated erratically, as if the very walls of the structure were alive, responding to their presence. The eerie silence only added to the unease. Then, without warning, the ship came to a halt. "Captain, we've reached the center of the structure," Lieutenant Moore reported, her voice tense. "There's a chamber ahead. It's unlike anything we've seen so far." Alex stood up and walked toward the observation deck, staring through the viewport. A massive chamber stretched out before them. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and at the center, a glowing orb floated, radiating a soft, otherworldly light. It was as if the entire chamber was alive, pulsing with energy. The orb seemed to be the source of everything, the heart of the structure itself. "This is it," Alex said, his voice quiet but filled with awe. "This is where the trials begin." The crew prepared for what was to come, each of them bracing themselves for the unknown. They had no idea what the trial would entail, but they were determined to face it together. The stakes were too high for them to turn back now. As the ship's doors opened, the light from the orb intensified, and a voice boomed inside their minds. "Welcome, travelers," the voice said. "You have made it this far, but the path ahead is not an easy one. You seek to wield the knowledge of the Talaris, but you must first prove your worth. The trial will begin now." The chamber around them began to shift. The walls closed in, and the air grew thick with tension. The orb at the center of the room began to pulse more rapidly, and the entire chamber seemed to come alive, its surface shimmering with a strange, radiant energy. A door opened in the center of the room, revealing a vast, dark void beyond. The crew hesitated, but Alex stepped forward, his determination unshaken. "We must face whatever comes next," Alex said. "We've made it this far, and we won't turn back." The crew followed him into the void, stepping into a darkness that felt almost tangible. It wasn't cold, but it was unsettlingly silent, as if the world itself had fallen mute. Then, slowly, light began to form in the distance, revealing strange shapes, figures moving toward them. The crew braced themselves, unsure of what these figures would bring. As the light grew brighter, the figures became clearer. They were humanoid, but their forms were distorted, as though they were made of shifting shadows. These beings exuded a quiet, almost ethereal power, and they moved with purpose, surrounding the crew. "This is the first trial," one of the figures spoke, its voice hollow and echoing. "You seek knowledge, but knowledge alone is not enough. You must prove that you can control what you seek. The trial will test your ability to resist temptation. It will test your resolve, your morality. Only those who are pure of heart can succeed. The figure stepped forward, its glowing eyes fixed on Alex. To pass this trial, you must confront your deepest fears and desires. You will face choices that challenge your very essence. Do you have the strength to resist the allure of power, or will you fall into the same darkness that claimed the species before you? The words hung in the air, their meaning settling in like a weight. Alex's heart raced as the realization dawned on him. This trial was not about what they could learn, but about how they would use what they learned. The Talaris had already warned them. Humanity's potential was both a gift and a curse. They had to prove that they could wield power wisely, without letting it consume them. One by one, each crew member was taken by the figures into separate chambers, where they would face their individual trials. Alex was led into a chamber bathed in blinding light, and suddenly his surroundings shifted. He was no longer aboard the Horizon. He was standing on Earth, but it was a world unlike the one he knew. It was a world in ruins, devastated by war. The people, the cities, everything was crumbling. Then a vision appeared before him, his own reflection, but it wasn't the man he knew. This reflection was powerful, commanding, and surrounded by advanced technology. He had become a ruler, using the power of the Talaris to reshape the world as he saw fit. But as the vision unfolded, Alex saw the dark side of his rule. He was surrounded by suffering, the world torn apart by his own decisions. In his desire to create a better world, he had destroyed it. The vision flickered and shifted. Now Alex saw the faces of his crew, all of them bending to his will, their eyes hollow and empty. They had become his followers, blind to the consequences of his actions. And in that moment, Alex understood. The power of the Talaris was intoxicating, and the temptation to use it for control, for personal gain, could easily lead to disaster. He stepped forward, his voice steady. This is not the path we will take. We will not be ruled by power. We will use the knowledge to help, not to control. The vision shattered, and Alex was returned to the chamber. The figure stood before him, its eyes glowing with approval. You have passed the first trial, the figure said. Your resolve is strong. You understand the cost of power. But this is only the beginning. Alex breathed a sigh of relief, but the weight of what he had just faced lingered. The trials were not just tests of intellect or strength. They were tests of character, of the heart. Humanity would need to be strong, not just in mind, but in spirit, to survive the trials ahead. One by one, the rest of the crew faced their own trials, and each of them emerged, stronger and more determined than before. They had all passed the test of temptation, proving that they could control the knowledge the Talaris offered. But there were more trials to come. When they reunited, Alex stood before them, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. The trials had only just begun, and the choices they made would determine the future of humanity. But there was hope. The crew had proven that they were ready to rise above their flaws, to confront their darkest fears and desires. We've passed the first test, Alex said, his voice filled with conviction. But we know there are more trials to come. We will face them together, as one. The crew nodded, united in their resolve. They had taken the first step toward unlocking the power of the Talaris, but they knew that the journey was far from over. The trials would continue, but they were ready. The future of humanity depended on it. As they left the chamber, the glowing orb at the center of the room pulsed again, its light brighter than ever. The path forward was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity had the potential to reach the stars, but only if they could control the power they had been given. The trials would test them, but together, they would face whatever came next. And so, a new beginning for humanity was on the horizon.